Drill music has been one of the defining sounds of the past decade. Normally, people will think of names like Pop Smoke or Chief Keef even, perhaps Lil Durk, and then you've got UK artists, etc. However, one person's name fell through the cracks and doesn't get nearly enough credit for the monumental movement he helped create. When talking about his early life, King Louie has jokingly compared himself in his songs to Tony Montana from Scarface.
Antonio Montana.
He made the analogy because Tony came from Cuba, but made a name for himself in Miami. In an interview, he said, "I was born out west of Chicago. Once I got to the 7th grade, I migrated to the east side of Chicago. Then I kind of moved a little south of the city. But that's just me saying like, I came from somewhere else, and then I made a name for myself everywhere like Tony Montana. So that's Tony. So when the people love King Louie, that's the Tony effect. It's just some stuff I played with and ran with." As a teenager, King Louie loved rapping and had his own notepad full of lyrics. This led to him making mixtape CDs at a friend's house, which he would pass around at school. King Louie went to Hyde Park Academy but got kicked out for fighting. And once he was kicked out of school, he had nothing else to do but rap full time. Towards the latter end of the 2000s, music streaming was not as commonplace as it is today. And with a CD, these kids had something physical in their hand made by someone from where they came from. So were more likely to sit down and listen to it. Desperate to get his name out there, he handed out these tapes in schools all across Chicago. During this time, a life-changing moment happened to him that would lead him to really chase after his music dream. He was walking outside of Ribs and Fish Unlimited on 79th Street in Chicago and crossing the road to get to his car. From this moment onwards, there's a complete blank. The next thing he remembers is waking up in a hospital and being told that he got hit by a car. Because of this accident, both his legs were broken, he suffered from memory loss, and his vision was temporarily impaired. He had to learn to walk again, and this brush with death gave him a new lease on life and made him a more confident person. After a few months, he returned to the studio to make more music. He released his first tape, Boss Stuff, in 2008, and became part of a growing hip-hop scene in South Chicago. In 2010, King Louie released the single I'm Arrogant, which started making major waves across Chicago. The music even caught the ear of Ye's then-manager, John Monopoly, as well as the hype he was building up. His crew included other promising rappers such as Big Homie Doe, Boss Wu, Loose Cannon, as well as the producer Low-Key. All of these rappers were clearly inspired by trap music coming from the South. At this point, Waka Flocka was really big. With Atlanta rappers like Gucci Mane as well, you can definitely see the bridging point between trap and drill. This darker and more aggressive style of trap music was reworked in Chicago and given its own slang and terminology to make it its own. One of the most common misconceptions about drill is that it's defined by the beats and production style. This is something that came a bit later and was a response to the lyrics and rhymes that came from the music. In 2010, one of King Louie's friends, Pac-Man, released a song named It's a Drill and put a name to the music and lifestyle they were leading. When King Louie was asked what the word drill meant, he said, "It's a way of life, bro. It's a verb, bro. Like, it could be anything. We did fire drills. Wasn't no effing body and getting killed. Nobody shooting or nothing in no fire drill when we were in school. That was a drill. So it's like anything could be a drill. It's like the killing aspect of that stuff, or just like the term man drilled his ass. MF's like that's raw, and that's how they took it." But later in 2010, another tragedy would strike King Louie. Pac-Man, the rapper who coined the phrase drill music, would not get to see the worldwide movement he started. Instead, he was tragically shot dead later that year. But like the car crash before, this experience only made King Louie stronger, and he was determined that his friend's memory could live on through the legacy of drill music. King Louie said, "Most people who talk about drill, 90% of those people don't know Pac-Man. So it's like thinking that Christopher Columbus discovered America." Although King Louie didn't coin the term drill music, he did create the term Chirac. He released his mixtape Chirac Drillinois in 2011, and the comparison between the chaos of Iraq at the time with the war with Chicago definitely made waves. Speaking about this term and the music he was making, King Louie said, "We were losing more friends than everybody else at that point in time, so it hit harder. It really hit me like, that's where the music come from. You speak from the soul." King Louie continued to make waves with songs such as What That Mouth Do and Too Cool. Lil Durk and Lil Reese were also slowly gaining traction, but it would be someone else who took drill to the mainstream. Chief Keef was another name making waves in Chicago. When he was on house arrest at his grandmother's, he decided to post videos up on YouTube. His song Bang turned heads everywhere, and later that year he released his now iconic hit, I Don't Like. This caused further heads to turn towards the Chicago scene and see what other artists were out there. Meanwhile, King Louis flew to Los Angeles and met up with Epic Records, who agreed to sign him then and there. He was already signed by a smaller label named Lawless earlier that year, but Lawless and Epic decided to go into a partnership on King Louis' music. While he was on this trip, a remix version of I Don't Like contained Pusha T, Big Sean, Jadakiss, and Chicago's very own Kanye West. In this song, he rhymed, Chief Keef, King Louis, this is Shy, right? With the mere mention of his name on that track, King Louis' fame grew further beyond Chicago. In an interview with Complex, he said, after that Kanye shout out, my cap level went up tremendously. When a person that big shouts you out, the people have to respect you. Then John Monopoly got in touch with King Louis. He wanted him to get a flight out to Paris to meet Kanye West, who at that time was working on his new album Yeezus. Although this was not a drill album, it was definitely tapping into the aggressive and abrasive sounds that came with drill music. King Louis felt blessed to be around Kanye's creative team and entourage. He worked on many tracks with Kanye and appeared in the song Send It Up. He also received a Grammy nomination as a co-writer on the song New Slaves. In the mid-2010s, drill music became popular across the pond, particularly in South London. They took this genre but also incorporated elements of UK grime and garage music, as well as their own slang and cultural references, while drill was kind of dying down in the States. A movement closer to its home was the sudden rise of Brooklyn drill, which adopted the sounds of UK drill, and it gave its own distinctive spin to the movement. Outside of music, Spike Lee created a new movie about crime in Chicago and decided to name it Chirac. The movie was accused of being tone deaf, as the story involved women of Chicago having a sex strike to curb gang violence in the area. Chief Keef's manager, Peter Pan, said, if somebody's going to do a Chicago movie and call it Chirac, it needs to be somebody from Chicago. King Louis was less polite and released a song named F. Spike Lee. The debate about the comparison between Chicago and Iraq lingered on, but a few weeks after the movie's release, something happened to King Louis that would only serve to confirm the negative attitudes towards the city. 2 days before Christmas at 3:30 p.m., King Louis was in his car after leaving a friend's house. Suddenly, someone started shooting at his car. They shot at his car 22 times and he was hit 7 times, including twice in the chest and once in the head. This was when Louis was recovering from being shot in the leg earlier in September. After being shot the day before Christmas Eve, King Louis swears that he experienced his life flash before his eyes. He also experienced a potential flash forward and imagined what his own funeral would be like. On Christmas Day, he posted a picture of himself recovering on a hospital bed while wearing a Santa hat. Talk about a modern-day Christmas miracle. Louis soon appeared on CNN to talk about what happened and discuss the wider issues of crime in Chicago. He was asked point blank,
King Louis, what's going on in Chicago?
His response was that,
the devil's working overtime. That's what's going on in Chicago.
One of his reasons for doing this interview with CNN was to promote his Put the Guns Down project, which was also supported by artists such as Common, Lil Herb, now known as G Herbo, Katie Got Bands, and Saba. In the years following, King Louis left Epic Records and took legal action against Lawless, who King Louis claims had not paid him any royalty payments. There was also an issue with the distribution agreements, and Louis was keen to put all of his earlier mixtapes onto streaming platforms, which he has since managed to do. He's now signed to a label called Machine, which has agreed to give him a lot more artistic freedom than before. Today, King Louis continues to make music, albeit nowhere near as popular, and drill music has now moved well beyond its founding fathers. I touched upon earlier that drill music spread over to the UK and then Brooklyn, and then we had a bit going on in Florida. But now there's drill music in New Zealand, Australia, there's Chinese and Japanese drill artists, you've got Brazilian drill artists. Whatever corner of the world you go to now, there's a strong chance that there are some kids in the area trying to be the next big drill artist. And it all originated in large part by King Louis, who almost rarely gets his credit now.